Today's training might be a little rough. You sure talk a lot.
What's up, guys, and welcome to What the Gaming.
What the?
On today's video, I wanted to talk a little bit about something that I've been kind of leading up to in my past bunch of videos, and that is the Stop Killing Games movement. Now, this is going to be indirectly about that. I more so want to talk about my opinions based on, maybe the movement as a whole, or how I feel about video games in general going into the future and like this digital age that we've entered. There's a lot going on that I want to actually discuss and get your feedback and opinions on also. And we've been talking about this for the past couple weeks, inadvertently. But talking about it today specifically, the Stop Killing Games initiative, as I would say, is a grassroots-led voting structure where they're trying to get legislation passed to protect consumers about the products that they're purchasing based on, presentation and how the products are presented to you. So the whole thing is about games that are going ahead into the future, games that are being created in the future. So not like games that are in development actively right now or games that have retroactively been developed in the past, but future games. They're trying to get legislation passed that would make it so some portion of the game is playable offline when the servers go down or whenever they decide to shut down the servers. Because I've mentioned this story a lot of times before, even in the past, but even just because you have physical media, if it's tied to something like DRM or tied to something like some kind of online check, and there's servers that are actively involved, they can either shut down parts of that game or the entirety of that game, even if some of the parts that are playable are offline parts, such as story modes and whatnot. I bought a disc of EA MMA. I bought it brand new. I went to play it one day on my PS3 a while ago. This is back on PS3, so it's definitely happening on PS4 and PS5 as well. This is just now that those times have been retroactively fitted to have their servers shut off. I was greeted with a message that said, "Thank you for supporting this game. We look forward to your support in the future," or whatever. And the game just became a coaster. It wouldn't go to the main menu, wouldn't do anything. It just displayed that message when the disc was inserted in my PlayStation. This was not a digital disc. This was not a digital download. This was a physical disc. And that really is when I started thinking about this process, about what am I doing contributing to just buying a lot of digital games. Because when digital games first became available on the PlayStation 3, I went crazy. Like, PlayStation 3, while I do have a good number of physical games, the vast majority of the games that I own are digital downloads. And that will be because either sales that were going on, PlayStation Plus free games, or, anything like that. Like, maybe, at that time was when I was, moving off and getting married and stuff like that. So I didn't really have time to play with my friends that often. We would game share. Back then, you were allowed to have, 5, I think, PS3s on your account. So we would all game share. And I would be the one primarily buying the games, and then we would all play together. So a lot of my purchases ended up being digital. It's nice now that I go into, let's say, now if I go on my PlayStation, I can just download all those games again. I have the library there, and I do have my physical library. And I've talked about the importance before of if you don't want to degrade a Blu-ray disc, because a lot of the data goes through multiple layers, so sometimes over time Blu-rays can degrade. Even if they're just sitting in a case not being used, they can just degrade over time in some instances. For example, you can't even run them through disc cleaning machines or resurfacing machines, because a lot of the data that is on that disc is on the area that needs to be scrubbed, whereas a DVD, most of the data is centered more towards the center ring or something like that. So there's a far less data to be had on there. So obviously that's just one of the pitfalls of working with that medium of physical media. And there are positives and negatives that I've talked about in the past to going one way or the other, instead of just embracing both, which I tend to more so embrace physical over digital, but I do see the vast amounts of benefits when it comes to digital. Now, when it comes to the Stop Killing Games initiative, they just don't want that to happen. They don't want you to be able to buy a physical disc or even download a game and then go in to play that game when they've shut the servers down and be greeted with a message that says, like, you can't play the game. Because as a consumer, you purchased that game, or at least you purchased the temporary license to play that game. And that is based on their terms and conditions and stipulations, and you do automatically agree to that every time we go into a game and it's got those big agreements and we just accept just to get to the main game. You're agreeing with that company's practices and stating that this is just a temporary license to play the game, and it in no way means that you have full ownership of it, and they still reserve the right to brick your game or block your game or your account or anything like that. It's all in there, like stipulated in the actual terms and conditions. So that's why they need legislation to be passed from the legislatures to actually get this into not only the zeitgeist, but into maybe Congress. And people like that, like in different governments, are mainly old, so they're not really going to get a lot of the vast majority of this like off the cuff. It has to be presented to them. They have to like understand it from a consumer protection kind of standpoint, or some kind of like capitalistic intention behind it, instead of just like, hey, we paid for this, it's ours. Like they're gonna go with that kind of argument instead of like the whole whatever ownership thing. I don't think they care about that. But the whole initiative was to get this passed so that like I said it in the beginning of the video, so that developers in the future are required to make some portion of their game playable offline in the future. That doesn't mean that like if you have online functionality that you can go in and you're going to get like new updates and stuff like that. And I was talking about this with a buddy the other day while we were actually playing Xenoverse 2, for example. The vast majority of Xenoverse 2, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, is online, right? You join a server, like as soon as you hop in, the story mode is online, like the world tournament's online. Obviously the hub is active online, but there's also an offline hub. There's also the option to choose to go into an offline hub. Now there are a lot of differences between the offline hub and the online hub. The online hub, for example, is where you would go to have the world tournament, or go to play with the raids, or go do co-op parallel quests, or to meet up with friends. Whereas the offline hub is just, bot representation of actual characters and bots that are just like, fulfilling like the area to feel lived in. But it's not really the same thing because there's no people actually behind that. So what this would be stated is like, if this game were to be made in the future, even when the offline portion shuts down, maybe have the offline version have more stuff involved with it. Like maybe take all the raids that we've done and put them into a raid section and offline, so that you can actually just go do the raids by yourself, or be able to do it co-op. If you're even just couch co-op or something, like I don't know how they would get online to work if they shut the servers down, but that's just what the initiative is about. And it's something that like I really feel needs to be addressed in the United States as well, because this petition, if you don't know, is like basically for the UK. I think it's like France, the UK, and a couple other legislators, but not here, or not where I'm at anyway. But this is like, we've seen all the controversy surrounding this, basically with like that guy Thor being like, oh yeah, they're gonna eat my whole ass, blah, blah, blah. Like we've all seen that stuff, and like that's ridiculous and a ridiculous take, and he's been called out for it several times by several people, so I'm not going to do so. He's just responding in turn with doubling down on ignorance and acting like, feigning like he understands the situation when he really doesn't get what's going on. I don't understand why he thinks he has a dog in this fight anyway. Maybe it's because he lauds himself as I want to say, dev communicator at best. So it is what it is. Like, I'm not going to go into Thor or any of that controversy. That's all over the internet. You can go look that up yourself. I'm not here for the drama, just the information. When it comes to me personally, though, I would like to know that if I purchase a product, whether it is digital or whether it is physical, that at some point 10, 20 years down the road, if I want to feel nostalgic and go play that game, I can pop it in and understand that some part of that game is going to function properly. And that's not saying every part of it's going to function properly. Like, servers get shut down. Servers cost money to maintain. New servers cost money and takes a lot of energy, and it's just like very cost efficient. That's why like a lot of those games that come out year to year, they'll like start going back and retroactively shutting down those servers when like the new games come out, and then that's just like, it is what it is. Like the wrestling games, and like, you guys know what I'm talking about. But when it comes to that specifically, it's just saying that, like, okay, well, you're not going to brick your thing. You're not going to, like, not have that version of the game. Like, you can go in and you can play some portion of that game, whether it's the story mode or character creation or even just use the couch features, like couch co-op or something like that. A lot of those initiatives need to be protected, so that, like, people in the future can feel safe and secure buying their product. Because already the big argument around digital, and this is a little bit unjustified too, but the large argument that I hear against digital, not only from my subscribers and people that I talk to in general in the space, it's mainly that you don't own your game. And to be fair, you haven't really owned your game since, like, I want to say, like, the PlayStation 2 era. Like, honestly, as soon as we started having, like, online patches and online functionality, like, you have to connect to the internet in order to download that stuff, unless it's saved directly on, you know, your system's RAM or your save data. And even so, if, like, something happens to your system and you go play that same game in something else, you may not have those features anymore. It's a lot of companies are okay with that. Like, if you go on to let's say your 3DS, for example, which has since been shut down, the eShop, you can't make any new purchases, but you can go to the downloads section and you can re-download licenses and games that you've already previously purchased in the past, and it's still ongoing. I literally just got a new 3DS and got rid of my old 3DS, and I did the same thing. I logged in and I downloaded all my stuff. I did do a transfer also, but so I didn't test it without that, but that's just, who cares? I'm rambling. But when it comes to this initiative, I just think that more people need to be vocal about the fact that they want to at least play some portion of their game in the future. Now, I understand this is not all gamers. There are certain gamers that'll literally just play all of the new stuff and never touch the old stuff again. When the new console comes out, they'll get rid of their old console, or they'll put it in the closet and forget about it, and they'll focus entirely on the new current stuff. People that play online only and don't touch story modes. People that are, like, what I like to say, like, the tryhards that get, like, one main character and just, like, that's the only portion of that game they play is one character in an entire game, which they paid for. They can do whatever they want, but I know those people are not really going to agree or care. As long as they can, like, have their section that they like, then they're fine with the game. But I don't want to keep rambling on too much about this. I just wanted to get your thoughts in the comment section down below and kind of open the discussion and the topic up a little bit more. This has been a cumulative thing, because we've been talking about this and my feelings around digital versus physical for the past, like, I think 2 or 3 videos. And this is probably just, like, the culmination when I just wanted to address the actual Stop Killing Games petition and see if there's, which I think has since been closed, but I want to really challenge all gamers everywhere to try to bring this up or get their own petitions going, or wherever they are in the world, whatever part of the world that they're from, trying to come together online and try to do something so that, like, the governments of the world can reactively, I guess, at least listen to us and try to take some of our considerations in, and not even if we get everything that we want, but just, like, legislation is passed that, you know, puts more on the industry to push for those kind of ideals. But that's going to be the video for today, guys. I asked you in the poll, and you can see here from the poll from the last video how that went. If you would only choose physical or only choose digital, and you had no option for both, which one would you choose? And obviously physical won, but that also could be because of the sample set of my pool of subscribers and people that watch my channel. I am an advocate for physical media, so I would assume that a lot of like-minded people would associate that with me, and that's one of the reasons they would, like, subscribe or listen to me in the first place. So these polls are just basically for gauging the poll. That's it. That's all it really is. But now that I've heard from them, I want to hear from you in the comment section down below, or you can join my Discord in the description box down below. And until the next video, guys.
Ivy Valentine subscribes to Mark Yoon, so should you. Enjoy your treat!
Sorry, but I gotta go.